you know something happened to Hollywood. They got scared. They got cautious. They got so worried that they might offend someone that they forgot what movies are supposed to do. And that is entertain you. And not safely, not with a permission slip, but the way that movies used to entertain you. Loudly, recklessly, and without an apology in sight. So today I have 10 films that would never get made today. So pop that tape in. I got you. Let's go do this. All right, before we get into the list, I want to set something up because this isn't me telling you you have to like any particular movie or that you have to like everything about any movie that you watch. Movies would be boring if that were the case. I mean, I make films. I understand the difference between a film depicting something and poking fun at it and a film trying to endorse it or push that message on you. And I think that most sensible people, including most of you, do too. And actually, that is the whole point. But every single movie on this list was made by real filmmakers, real writers, real actors who had real craft and audiences who loved them. Every single one of them would probably not have a chance to get made today, and not because they're hateful, but because Hollywood stopped believing that you could handle them and tell the difference between real life and make-believe. So let's count them down. All right, at number 10, we're going back to the 70s in 1974's Blazing Saddles. And we start at this one on purpose because Blazing Saddles is not just one of the funniest films on this list, it might be the smartest overall. Full of satire, Mel Brooks made a movie that made fun of racism and all kinds of crazy tropes using racism as a weapon in this movie that is simultaneously purposely very offensive and also still the most anti-racist film Hollywood has ever produced. The problem is today an entire generation can't laugh off that stuff and see for what it is. They just see things that they don't like, things that are offensive, and they miss the whole point of the story. This is sophisticated satire at the highest possible level. Mel Brooks said it himself. Blazing Saddles would never be made today, and he's right. And it's not because the message is wrong, but because Hollywood doesn't trust the audiences to understand the difference between depicting something and making fun of it and laughing at how ridiculous it is and endorsing it. And that distinction is the most basic principle of satire to start with. It is now apparently above and beyond, though, however, anything that Hollywood can allow because the industry believes that you can't handle it and you're just going to cancel it. And the fact that this film exists is a miracle and nothing like that has been made again. That is kind of a tragedy. Blazing Saddles comes in at number 10. Now, number 9 is on this list for a very different reason, one that I'm going to defend. It's 1984's Red Dawn by John Milius of Conan, among many other films. And this one wouldn't get made today for completely different reasons, and that distinction is worth making here, because Red Dawn isn't on this list because it's raunchy or transgressive. It's here because it is actually sincere in what it does. You have a group of American teenagers who take to the mountains to fight back against a Soviet invasion of their hometown, basically the beginning of World War III. And the film just believes in this concept completely, without a doubt. No irony, no like postmodern type of qualifications, yeah, but and this, though, none of that. No, but there's another side to this. There's someone else's point of view. No, forget it. This is American kids fighting for America, for their friends, for their family, for their country, because it is worth fighting for. And they've been invaded from someone who wants to take that from them. And it's this sort of unironic belief in this movie that America is worth defending at all costs, that ordinary people can be heroes, that some things are actually still worth standing up for. It is ungreenlightable today because of that. They would never have anything that pro-America, that sincere anymore. This wouldn't be on Hollywood's list at all. The Suits would demand that the Soviets get a sympathetic backstory in this film, that, well, America deserved it because X, Y, and Z in their rewriting of history. No doubt the kids would need to question whether fighting back was really the right answer, and the whole point would basically evaporate in a bunch of studio notes. Red Dawn and John Milius, who wasn't having it back in the day, understood something that modern Hollywood tends to forget, and that's that sometimes the story is just the story, and that's enough. Red Dawn comes in at number 9. Now, next up at number 8 is 1986's Soul Man, and this one has some framing to it. And first, I'm going to start off by saying that James Earl Jones, who stars in this movie, defended this movie his entire life. Soul Man stars C. Thomas Howell as a white student who takes tanning pills to appear black, okay, in order to qualify for a minority-only scholarship. And that sort of kind of puts him in a blackface, you would kind of say, although he's really just tan. And in mainstream Hollywood, in studio film in 1986, they did this. And this isn't a defense of anything like that. You can feel however you want to about it. But Howell's character experiences discrimination. He begins to understand how other people think and feel. And there is a counter argument made in this in context that as a white man in this movie, he didn't have the money to go to school either, and he was excluded also and somewhat discriminated against. He had no eligibility for this particular scholarship that he needed in order to pay for school because he was white. So he had to try to make himself appear black in order to get a benefit from someone else. So this kind of, if you look at it, takes it on both extremes, and we're not allowed anymore to get through the satire and the ridiculousness of all of that because the message and the packaging is too offensive and too risque for some. It's not. It needs to be seen. Understand why it's uncomfortable both ways. That is the point, hidden under some ridiculous laughs. Soul Man comes in at number 8. Now, number 7 is one that I feel like shouldn't even have to be on this list, and it is 1983's Trading Places. John Landis directed it, and apparently a lot of people just want to cancel the movie and call it problematic for that reason alone. But you have Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd starring in this, one of my favorite comedies of all time, and it's one of the sharpest, funniest, most genuinely inclusive comedies about race and class that has ever been made in America. You've got two wealthy brokers who make a bet that they can take a street hustler and turn him into a successful businessman while simultaneously destroying their star pupil, stock trader at the same time. Murphy and Dan Aykroyd are awesome in this film. I love their chemistry. The film is legitimately funny and smart about what it's doing, the specific way it engages with race and class directly, fearlessly, and still makes it funny rather than going all the way into any kind of lecture or agenda pushing or anything, is exactly what Hollywood cannot execute today. They just can't do it. The industry has decided the only way to address race issues or class issues on screen is with a complete bombardment over the head and instruction and lecture at the expense of story and entertainment. Instead of us finding our shared humanity, we're just bludgeoned with whatever the ideology is, or the opinion, or the way to serve that opinion is of the writer, and you see the puppeteer behind the puppet when you do that. And that, for that reason, it is just so much different. Trading Places knew better. So did the audience. It's an amazing film. It comes in at number 7. At number 6 is one of my favorite movies all time. It's 1985's Weird Science. John Hughes, two teenage boys, a computer, and they plan to create the perfect woman. And two kids who can't talk to girls decide to build one Frankenstein style using a computer, Barbie dolls, 80s Blue Lightning, and beautiful Kelly LeBrock. And she appears out of nowhere, and the whole rest of the film is two teenagers navigating the consequences of that. The entire premise, today would qualify as a human resources nightmare. Although, if you really look at this movie, it's said that the boys make her and take advantage of her. Watch this movie. She controls them completely in the film. She says they have control over her, but they have no control over her. They even say it in the movie. If we control you and you answer to us, how come you keep doing all these things we don't want? They say it in the movie. It is a fun premise. It teaches these boys what it's like to be real men and to have real relationships instead of just fantasy ones. But again, we can't get to the moral of the story because too many people are offended by the funny packaging, and we just don't get films anymore like this because of that. And honestly, we miss it every single time we sit down in a theater and they try something like this and it gets buried under a lot of finger wagging. They didn't do that. John Hughes certainly didn't do that. Weird Science comes in at number 6. Now, number 5 is another one that I was actually shocked to see on this list, and because we just recently did a coverage of a huge article about films like this, and this one was near the top. It's 1984's 16 Candles, and John Hughes again. Apparently, people just want to cancel John Hughes nowadays. And this one is complicated, I guess, despite being a genuine teen classic, because you have the whole Farmer Ted subplot where the geek essentially trades the drunk, unconscious girlfriend. And then you have Anthony Michael Hall going in there and proving to his 15 and 16-year-old buddies with Molly Ringwald's panties that he had been with her. All of this, the whole permission thing for a pair of underwear, it's played for laughs in the movie, and people didn't take it seriously. Now we've got to pretend that it is just this whole problem and it should be canceled and assumptions made and all of these things. And it's just exhausting. It's just exhausting. There's something almost completely lost in Hollywood, the ability to understand what isn't real and what is. And losing it has made us worse at watching movies and worse at talking to each other. 16 Candles is a perfect example of that. It's a classic. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. It comes in at number 5. Now, number 4 is 1983's Risky Business. And this was Tom Cruise before he was Tom Cruise, a teenager whose parents go out of town, and a series of bad decisions ends up with him in control of a brothel that he is running out of his own house. Joel Goodson is a straight-A student, and he's college-bound, and he's a future businessman, and he has all of his ducks in a row, and but then he just accidentally meets a call girl, lady of the night. He needs money, has an accident, runs the car into the water. He's got to get it fixed. And suddenly the way out is to, run a brothel out of your parents' house while they're gone. And the film treats this, a lot of people now say, not as a cautionary tale, but more of a coming of age story. And there's that complaint now. There's the complaint that Joel doesn't get punished enough in the movie, although he learned a lesson because he was put through the ringer with this, but you ignore all that. But the lesson of Risky Business, to the extent that it has one, is that sometimes you have to say what the hell and just make your move. Go for it. Live the way you think you should live. The ending is the part that could never survive today because he doesn't get punished. And modern Hollywood would need Joel to lose everything, be broken down, be deconstructed, and pay an even bigger price rather than just having been scared to death and learned his lesson along the way. And nowadays, that just wouldn't be good enough. So for that reason, Risky Business comes in at number 4. At number 3 is 1978's Animal House. And you could say this is one that kind of started them all because National Lampoon's Animal House has a cast. It has John Belushi, with John Landis again directing, and the most degenerate fraternity in the history of fictional American universities. And they are waging war against the establishment. Animal House is not subtle in any way. It's a college exploitation movie. It does what it wants to do. It's not trying to be subtle. The Deltas are not really good people by any conventional measure. They're lazy, they're irresponsible, occasionally almost criminal, but completely magnificently alive in the way that kids at that age should be in a lot of ways. And that would cause so many problems today, and that's the point. The film is fundamentally about life force, like just that energy of genuine human excess, and it sides with the excess. And that's another problem that you would have today, completely and without reservation. And that would land you on the cancel list today because, again, they're not getting punished. They're chuds, they're incels, they're whatever name you want to throw at them. And today the Deltas would need to be expelled. They would need to be canceled. They would need to have their whole future outlook on life changed and their whole business prospects taken away. All of that. It wouldn't matter what their characters did in their life afterwards. They would need to be shut down right now. We used to love when people didn't always follow the rules, but they had a good heart behind them and a moral compass behind them. And movies don't believe in that anymore. And our movies show that every single week at the box office, because up until Project Hail Mary that started to make you believe that again, nobody went and saw them. Animal House comes in at number 3. And at number 2, had to be here, another one of my favorite comedies of all time. I grew up with this movie. It's 1984's Revenge of the Nerds. And I will stand here all day and defend this movie because it is one of the most purely satisfying comedy films of the entire 80s decade. Lewis and Gilbert, Ogre, Booger, Lambda, 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 Alpha Betas, outcasts, misfits that nobody wanted, taking on the entire social order of Adams College and winning, like completely and totally winning. This film has genuine heart to it. Doesn't matter what you want to argue. The nerds are sympathetic. The alpha betas are genuinely awful. And I was a jock. We weren't all like that, but it's still, like, I laughed at it because it's a stereotype. It's being played for a point in the movie. It's not a complicated moral position in this film. The film has a genuinely good heart to it, and it makes the argument more with warmth and genuine affection for the characters than most films do. And that's even when you've got things like the panty raid that people have problems with, the cameras in the sorority house, Lewis pretending to be Betty's boyfriend, all viewed through the modern lens are quote unquote problematic. But it is problematic to view anything 30 or 40 years after the fact with that current day's changing sensibilities that will inevitably change again. But here's what I keep coming back to. We threw the whole thing out. Everybody threw the whole thing out because they didn't like a couple of moments in the film. And in doing so, you lost one of the most joyful, genuine, humane, like, movies of the entire era. It was all about inclusivity and that the little guy, anyone, no matter what, would find somewhere to fit in. We threw all that out because you didn't like a few parts of it. I still love the movie. Revenge of the Nerds comes in at number 2. And at number 1, we have 1982's Porky's. Now, Porky's or Revenge of the Nerds could be 1 or 2. They always seem to get poked at the most. But Porky's is set in 1950s Florida. It's an 80s movie about the 50s. So that's the first couple things you got to remember. Whole different time. You've got it's in Florida. You've got a group of teenagers at Angel Beach whose singular obsession is to lose their virginity. Not something that is stretched far from the truth for a bunch of high school seniors. This isn't something that is like out of the realm of possibility. And the whole thing is about that one singular obsession the whole time. And the movie made an absolute fortune. One of the highest grossing films of 1982. That was the year, 1982. You'll hear from me soon. This year was incredible. It had E.T., Rocky III, so many movies in that year. Audiences showed up, though, for Porky's in droves to see it because they understood that it was a slice of life, something ridiculous that boys and girls go through, a coming of age story, awkwardness, doing things you're not supposed to, getting in trouble for it, all of that. But the peephole scene alone today gets studio executives and critics, gets them all twisted up. They can't have it. The shower scene, the scene in the coach's office, the scene with Lassie, quote unquote, in the men's locker room. These are some of the most hilarious moments in the film that people just can't stomach today. Honestly, the movie is completely truthful and honest about 18-year-olds with raging hormones, human desire, genuine affection for a flawed sort of approach to characters, and zero apology for any of it. This kind of thing is extinct in Hollywood as the VHS that it came out on back in the day in the video rental store that carried it. And that is unfortunate because that extinction has cost us something that we haven't fully even measured yet. But Porky's comes in at number 1. So there you go. 10 films made across roughly 10 years, roughly a decade, back when Hollywood believed something that it no longer believes. It used to believe that you were an adult that could tell the difference between a story, a movie that was fake, and actual reality. I know, it shouldn't be that hard, right? That movies are for everyone, and not just people who passed the right ideological tests first. That is a big thing. I'm not telling you everyone has to love all these films. You don't have to. But you have to understand where they were made, why they were made, and the truth in them that we don't get today. They were made by genuine artists who just wanted to entertain you and trust the audience. And I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please like and subscribe. There's so much more to come. And if you want to help support what we're doing here a little bit more, my Patreon link is in the description. You'll get your name on every video. Behind the scenes looks at my filmmaking, physical media reviews, and so much more. And everything helps the channel, and I really do appreciate it. And if this hits you the same way it hits me every time I think about what we used to have, then stick around. You are in the right place. But until next time, be kind, rewind like always. This is Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. I know.